Breaking in the last few moments, the Pentagon has released the names of 4 of the 6 service members who were killed in the Iran war, saying that they died in a drone strike in Kuwait. All 4 Army Reserve soldiers were killed on Sunday. It was a drone hit. Hit a command center in Kuwait, and that was just a day after the U.S. and Israel launched its military campaign against Iran. So we're looking at the soldiers here on screen. So they were all from the 103rd Sustainment Command in Des Moines, Iowa, and they were Captain Cody Khork, 35, of Winter Haven, Florida. Sergeant First Class Noah Tietjens, 42, of Bellevue, Nebraska. Sergeant First Class Nicole Amor, 39, of White Bear Lake, Minnesota. And Declan Coady, 20, of West Des Moines, Iowa. So those, we are understanding, are the first 4 American troops who lost their lives that have this has just broken this moment. The soldiers have been named. We can see their pictures there. All 4 Army Reserve soldiers were killed on Sunday. It was a drone strike in Kuwait, 3 men and 1 woman. So just take a moment here with my American panel, if I can just, so I've got a guest waiting, but just very briefly, this is when it becomes hard for the president, when you start to put names, faces and ages to the victims of these bombings.
And he said in a remark that many have taken that he was pretty callous, that essentially this is war, this is it, there's going to be more probably that will die in this action. And one thing I do want to point out is that after the action a couple of months ago in the Caribbean, the president redirected the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier strike group to the Middle East to support this. The USS Gerald R. Ford is about to break a post-Vietnam record for longest aircraft deployment. That affects morale. It keeps armed services away from their families. It's hard on the ship. We've seen reports about things breaking on that aircraft carrier. There is a limit to how long you can deploy U.S. troops and how long they can sustain this action. They're going to do what they need to do. They are incredibly brave, and they are defending America and doing what their commander-in-chief has told. But this is already taking a toll. Okay, I'll come back to you in a minute, Eric, but let me talk now to the United States Secretary of the Army under the Obama administration, Patrick Murphy. Patrick, first of all, your reaction to the news that we can put names and faces to 4 of these lost service men and women.
Yeah, you know, it makes me want to just say a prayer for them and their families. They're American heroes, and I appreciate, Bev, you taking the time to say each one of their names and their rank and the unit they came from. As you know, we've lost 6. 4 of the 6 are now named, and this is the cost of war. And I think this is one of the reasons why someone like myself, who served in the invasion of Iraq, understand that we have to only go send our men and women into harm's way as a last resort. We have to, as a country, be the reluctant warrior.
And to Mark's point just then about the fact that morale will start to go down. I mean, this is very early days of this particular attack on Iran in collaboration with Israel, of course, we have to remember. But what do you think the morale will be like at the moment, Patrick, amongst the forces? Will this be a war they feel they need to fight?
They're trained to do a job, Bev. I have full faith and confidence that our troops won't ask the questions whether or not we should be in Iran or not. They will be fighting for their brother and sister next to them. They will stand shoulder to shoulder and execute the training, the world-class training that they've been given, and they will execute it with honor and dignity. So I have no doubt about that, Bev. And just like when I was in Iraq, I had questions about whether or not we should have been there as part of the invasion force. When my troops would ask me, when I was a captain with the 82nd Airborne Division, sir, what are we doing over here? Should we be here? I was like, hey, let's do our job. Let's go up and down Ambush Alley. Let's get home safe so we can see our family again. They don't ask those type of political questions. They defer to our civilian leadership. I will say that there's a lot of veterans that say, wow, after World War II, every 5 members of Congress, 4 were veterans. Now, It's less than 1 out of every 5 members of Congress that are veterans. So a lot of these folks that served in Congress right now, that aren't taking votes that they are authorized by the Constitution, and they're real quick to send other people's sons and daughters into harm's way.
Do you see many comparisons, Patrick, between the attacks on Iraq and this situation in Iran now? People will inevitably draw that comparison. Nobody wants a long, protracted conflict. President Trump has talked about 4 weeks and he wants it done. Does that feel realistic to you?
It doesn't, Bev. And again, I'm an American first, but I will say in Iraq, people forget, 73% of Americans were in favor of the Iraq war. It was authorized by the U.S. Congress. Our Secretary of State, Colin Powell, briefed the UN. We had allies like the UK, Canada, etc. before we went in there in 2003. Today, as you know, UK is not with us. Most countries are not with us. France just came out questioning the legality of this war. This is not like Iraq. This is worse. Only 23% of our fellow Americans are for this. And why? Because 8 months ago, we decimated the nuclear program on Operation Midnight Hammer. And now, 8 months later, we're going back in there when there's not an imminent threat, when American lives are not at stake, and when we were close to a peace deal in Geneva just last weekend. And I think that's what's given people a lot of heartburn. We understand that politics ends at the water's edge, but there's folks that are making these decisions that are not taking in the will of the American people and have a Congress that has been missing in action during this debate.
Mark wants to come in. Go on, Mark.
So the Secretary is absolutely right. You saw the combined communications efforts of the United States government in Iraq under George W. Bush. Here we get a video on Truth Social, and even the full Congress isn't briefed. There's been no Oval Office address. The president did not leave his resort at Mar-a-Lago. There has definitely been a sea change this time when U.S. is going into major combat operations, and how you bring the American people along with you. How do you convince the American people this is in the United States' interest? It could not be more stark, the difference in communicating with the American people and their elected representatives this time compared to almost any other time I can think of.
The only thing I might say in counter to that, Patrick, is the fact that the president has been talking every day. He's taken 19 phone calls from journalists who just happened to have his number and picked up the phone and had a chat, bypassing the White House press department, because I think he feels he has nothing to hide. He's just going to... His objective for him is simple. He wants to get rid of any nuclear capability of Iran. He just wants the world to sleep more safely in their beds. He wants a peaceful regional settlement in the Middle East, and he cannot have that until he takes out the power structure within Iran. How is that bad?
It's bad because we did over 900 strikes just within the first 24 hours. That's major combat operations. This is a war against Iran without congressional approval. That's what makes it bad. You can support the troops and love our country, but also say we got to follow the U.S. Constitution and U.S. law under the War Powers Act. So what is bad is, Bev, he is not going to, Mark just mentioned it, he is not going there in the Oval Office, addressing the American people. He's picking and choosing what reporters he wants to talk to. He's the president of the United States, whether people voted for him or not. He's our president. He needs to lead and talk to us about what's really going on.
Go on. You want to say something, Eric?
I want to follow on what both these guys are saying. I was actually working in the Senate when we were at war in Iraq. I was working for Senator Bill Nelson. He served on both Armed Services and the Foreign Relations Committee. And even in the lead up to the war, there were constant, incessant briefings taking place all the time between the White House and Congress. You knew everything. You knew people from the White House on a first name basis in terms of what was actually going to happen. So there was never a surprise. And also there was tremendous buy-in from the Congress at the time. And when we're talking about what's happening right now, as it was already mentioned by Patrick, there was a coalition of the willing, not just of countries, but there was tremendous buy-in. But also, sorry to cut you off, but Congress is going to have to foot the bill for this. And already the United States is expending billions to actually intercept drones and missiles where Iran is actually spending millions. And we're already stretched thin. In fact, we're told that we're going to have to bring assets from Asia to Iran because of this, and we're only 3 days in this war. And at some point, he's going to need Congress to get on board, but I don't think he's going to have the political will because he hasn't brought them on right now. So it's not about, if they're not there at the takeoff, they're certainly not going to be there at the landing. And we still have to remember, this is an election year. Everything is political now. And even Republicans, while they're supporting him now, as this gets longer and more costlier, they are going to start running for cover.
Okay, I could really pick up on that, but I just want a last word from Patrick before you go. Patrick, what is the best case scenario here as far as the American military is concerned, the Israeli military, the European military that may or may not get involved? What is our best case scenario?
Well, Bev, best case scenario is that all of our troops come home safe. No doubt about it, right? That's number one, hands down. But it's not about a military solution. It is really about a political solution. And I don't see it. This is not some type of regime change where we have a clear leader like we had in Venezuela just a few weeks ago. We took out the top 40 leaders in Iran. We're hoping the Iranian people stand up, but the Revolutionary Guard has the weapons. And so this is messy. This is not strategic. This is not good.
No, it is not good. And they've appointed the new leader today, but we haven't even gone on to that yet. There's so much to talk about. Patrick, good to see you again. Patrick Murphy, their Secretary of the Army under the Obama administration. Thank you so much. Right, let me know your thoughts. I know you are doing the inbox is coming in. The only thing I was going to say is that actually whenever President Trump bypasses Congress, he says he has to do it because why? There's so much resistance to him as a person that anything he does will be met with resistance. Has he got a point?
No, because he's going to need money, and it is Congress that actually appropriates those dollars. And I was there back in 2001 and 2002 when we were literally appropriating billions seemingly on a weekly basis. Trump is going to need far more than that. Iran is a completely different animal that he's facing right now, and he just doesn't have the support.
Okay, right. Let's move on because it's time for a quick break.